Well, good evening, everyone. Hope you had a great day at Virtual Con. So today we played a game of Exquisite Corpse, and it was crazy. I'd never done this before, and this story went really wild and really deeper than I thought it would. So right now, I am going to attempt to narrate this story that we created today, and hopefully I can do it justice. So here we go. Virtual Con, Exquisite Corpse, Final Script. In the house where Imogen grew up, there lurked a door downstairs that none in her family could see. The door was blue, paint cracked and peeling, with a marking on the knob, a clumsy sigil that looked like a mouth with zigzagging, almost cartoon teeth. As an adult now, she thinks back, and she cannot be sure if ever she opened it. Some ghost of a memory, like a dream dissolving as you try to recall it, eludes her. Her brother, Owen, does not recall the door, or that time she tried to show it to him. But now, her parents are dead. Owen inherited the house, for Imogen has long been out of the will. He, his wife, and 3 children moved in last week. And one of his children, Polly, has gone missing. But Imogen knows where she went. Polly found the door. The night Polly goes missing, Imogen has a dream she has not had since she was a child. She is back in that house again, standing before the blue door, her hand reaching toward the doorknob. There is someone on the other side, waiting for her. She touches the doorknob, the metal surprisingly warm beneath her palm, as if someone else's hand had just been there. She presses her ear to the wood, and though she knows it is a dream, she could swear she can feel the rough wood beneath her cheek. She's had this dream before, all through her childhood. So often she began to wonder if it was more of a memory. Now, she knows that's impossible. Because on the other side of the door, as clear as anything, she can hear Polly's voice, calling her name. "Imogen?" Polly whispered desperately. "Imogen, is that you?" Imogen stared at the door, paralyzed with fear. She wanted to respond, but it felt like every part of her body was being held in place by cold claws. "Open the door! Please, Auntie Imogen! It's coming back!" Polly shrieked. Imogen tried to reach for the handle, tried to shout back that she was here, that she was coming, but all she could do was gasp as the frigid fingers tightened around her throat. A strange orange mist started to seep out of the door. Polly's screams felt like needles being driven into Imogen's brain. She couldn't take it. With a burst of rage, she broke free, grabbed the doorknob, and suddenly heard a crackly, deep voice say, "She's 4 feet tall, I guess." Something about the brittle crackling in Owen's voice startled Imogen out of the memory. The officer's pen scratched across his notepad as Owen's wife sobbed on the couch, their twin boys wrapped in a too-tight embrace. Dreams seemed so much more real at times like these, when life was like a nightmare. The tidy green lawn on which she'd played as a little girl was now teeming with uniformed men. Bright lights of red and blue swirled from the roofs of 6 cars. When your phone screeched the alarm of an Amber Alert for your own niece, how could it feel real? How could it be real? It was no wonder her mind was filled with nightmares and broken memories of the past. Anywhere at all would be better than this place. She hadn't been to this house. It never felt like a home since they kicked her out. All she remembers from that day is a duck, broken glasses, and someone saying, "Find me." Then she was boarding a bus to start her new life. She's only here now because she's a suspect. Though one look at her, Coke bottle glasses, paint-covered overalls, and a fry tucked behind her ear, and the cops must think she's not much of a threat. They're distracted, tagging evidence, comforting parents. It's almost too easy to sneak down to the basement. The door is still there. Blue paint faded and cracked. Her breath catches. Part of her was convinced she'd made it all up. The door, the dreams, the fear. But it's real. She's about to open the door when she notices the sigil on the doorknob has changed. The sigil on the door, which she remembered as a mouth with zigzag teeth, now looked like a musical note. Imogen had never learned to read music, couldn't tell a quarter note from a koala, but that had never stopped her from loving music. She reached deep into her overall pocket and pulled out her harmonica. She carried it as a talisman more than anything, had carried it ever since she found it in her bag on the long bus ride away from the house. She'd never known where it came from. What do you do when an instrument finds you? Even if it's a janky harmonica and you don't know whose lips have touched it? You wipe it off and learn to play, with enthusiasm if not skill. Now, for the first time, a reason presented itself. A sigil. As she brought the harmonica to her lips, Owen descended the stairs and confronted her. "What are you doing?" Imogen pointed. "I think Polly's behind that door." "What door? What are you tripping on now?" Imogen ignored him and played a scale. One of the notes, she didn't know which, caused the sigil to glow orange. A bolt clicked open. She twisted the handle and pulled. Owen blinked. "Whoa! Where did that door come from?" "It's always been there." Mist wafted from the doorway, and birdsong. Bucolic parklands under a blue sky beckoned to them. The great outdoors, in their basement. "Polly's in there? Let's go." "Wait, Owen, it's dangerous." A new voice thrummed, low and malevolent, from the other side. "Nonsense. Come join us, Owen." It was the voice from Imogen's dreams, the one she'd been trying and failing to forget, the one that felt like cold claws around her throat. But she knew there was no turning back. If the owner of that voice had Polly, she had to go through the door. Owen must have agreed. He lunged forward. "Where's my daughter, you monster?" "I'm not a monster," the voice said. "How could a monster live in such a beautiful place as this, with sun and bird song and trees?" Imogen and Owen charged through the door. As soon as they crossed the threshold, it slammed shut behind them. Imogen turned back to try the handle, but it had vanished. The door was gone. They crept into the dreamscape. Trees swayed. but she felt no wind. Everything angled toward a central point. Imogen sensed it in the curve of each bush, the reach of each branch. She followed that instinct to a clear target. A tree, crude and hunched. It was designed for a task rather than beauty. Great cocoons hung from each branch. When the light caught them, she saw curling forms within. Imogen's heart stopped. It was Polly, at the base of the tree, buried up to her eyes. She barely stopped Owen. "Wait, look!" A creature untangled itself from the branches, towering and lithe. They watched it circle beneath the canopy. It took Imogen a moment to realize it was gardening. It's pruning the tree. Owen was fighting to tear free of her grasp. The creature approached.
"Are you hungry?"
"What?"
"If you are, how about a pack of vanillos? The creamy wafer treat for when you're feeling beat."
Imogen and Owen looked at each other. Was this nightmare sponsored by a cookie?
"I'd like one,"
said the girl in the cocoon, her voice muffled. "Polly," Owen cried, "you're alive!"
"Who's Polly?"
the girl said. Owen looked to Imogen, who had no answers. The creature opened its mouth.
"That's not Polly," it said. "Not yet, anyway."
"What do you mean?" Owen asked. "Where is she?" The creature was done talking. It cut down the pod containing Not Yet Polly, cradling the body, and handed it to Imogen. "I think I know," said Imogen, holding her niece. Owen looked at his sister. "What?" Not Yet Polly gazed up at Imogen without blinking. It was Polly. Of course it was. The face Imogen loved and adored. But also not. Polly had always been a striking child, a quietly beautiful girl. Not that her father had ever seemed to think so. At family gatherings, Owen often heaped scorn on Polly for being too slow, too stupid, too strange-looking. Yet with each passing year, she'd grown more assured, more into her father's girl, especially after visiting the house, and after Imogen's dreams. The poor buried girl at the base of the tree, another Not Yet Polly? No, a Polly who wasn't enough. "You've come here before," she told Owen. "Many times." The terror fell neatly from Owen's face.
"Well," he said, "you always were the smart one."
The trees shivered above. They glanced up to see the creature snaking through its branches. From a gap in the leaves, a glimpse of a man-face, feathered and deformed.
"You see a door," it said, "but it's a seed that wishes to grow, waiting for a special watering."
"What kind of watering?" asked Owen. The leaves shuddered.
"What kind do you think?"
whispered the creature.
"How many times have you been here? How many families have started and stalled at this place over and over again, and always with you?"
An image flashed in Imogen's mind. a bit from a nature show she'd watched, about spores that alight on an ant and fester in its skull, and take over its tiny ant thoughts. Not a seed, she thought. A parasite. It's eating us, making us play family over and over until it's big. Imogen took a deep breath to steady herself, her eyes flashing. "No," she said.
No.
The creature dug its claws into the bark as it moved closer to her, its entire body undulating as it crawled over and under the branches, more of a serpent than a man. The creature wrapped its tail around a low branch and wrenched itself forward, stopping just a few inches from Imogen's face. Beside her, Owen seemed to wilt.
What do you mean, no?
The creature asked, its hot breath ghosting across her face. "No to all of it. No more," Imogen said.
We'll see.
The creature gestured toward Not Polly, who stepped forward and began to open her mouth wider than she had a right to, her teeth growing sharper as she did. She could swallow the whole world, Imogen thought, and she might. Above, long after the police left, Imogen's sister-in-law and twin nephews still searched the house for Owen.
"He's here," Dean said. "He's not,"
Dane said. But Hattie could only fume. This was a bad time for Owen to take off. Yet had he? Dean was her little realist, and for as often as that drove her mad, he was also usually right. "Where then?" she asked him. They were in the basement, and Dean and Dane both looked to the same corner. Hattie plowed past them. "And what is this?" she asked. But her boys were already pulling slingshots from their pockets.
"If we're gonna get Dad and Polly,"
Dane started, but his brother finished the sentence.
"We're gonna need these."
The Not Polly was perfect, perfectly beautiful, and perfectly hungry as it rushed her. The creature opened her jaws, and Imogen opened her arms. "No to this! You're not Polly!" The creature paused, as if it had caught a new scent. Imogen pushed through. "Doorways and mouths and songs have one thing in common, Polly. They're liminal. People and words and lyrics pass through them to be somewhere else. This is a not place, a liminal place. That," she pointed at the serpent man, "is a not too. You're not Polly, but who do you want to be?" The not place held its breath. The not beast was enraged. He snarled and struck just as Imogen could hear the sound of 2 slingshots being released. 2 fist-sized rocks struck the not beast, knocking it from the tree. It smashed through branches as it fell, breaking off cocoons, and finally slammed into the ground and lay stunned. A rain of cocoons fell down around it and split open. Imogen gaped. Each cocoon had contained a child, and every single child looked exactly like Polly. "Mommy!" they all screamed with Polly's voice. "Daddy! Save me!"
"They're not all Polly," said Dane. "We have to pick out the real Polly," said Dean.
"Which one?" Owen stared between the girls. "Owen," said Imogen. "Think! Which one is it?" Owen peered at each face. His expression didn't change. And then, finally, his head swung around, and he looked at the stunned not beast.
Polly? He asked.
After dinner, months later, Dean and Dane stood side by side at the kitchen sink, flicking soapy water at each other while pretending to wash the dishes. Owen came into the kitchen, humming, arms laden with plates.
Things have been good around here lately, huh?
He asked them, nodding toward the dining room where Polly was loudly collecting silverware and glasses.
She's okay, right?
They nodded quickly, but uneasily. Owen left to go watch the evening news as Polly entered, smiling sweetly up at him. Her lips curled menacingly at Dean and Dane.
Thanks for that,
she whispered as she turned toward the basement, her mostly hidden tail twitching beneath her skirt.